The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
Okay, so we've done this show for 3 years and a couple months. And we've had tons of guests on. We've had everyone from Elliot Friedman to Richard Petty to Jeff Merrick to Ben Scrivens recently.
Jake and Smallwood.
That's right, we had that guy. That kid, he was the best. Really was a great kid. But the one thing that I have never seen from Steve is the outright ridiculous excitement that we have for today's guest. And before I bring her on, I want to talk about a little conversation we had this morning.
Oh, so, great, that's good.
So Steve was up early, and I can always tell when Steve's up early because Steve's messaging us in the morning. If Jesse and I hear nothing from Steve in the morning, it's because Steve's sleeping. But if he's up early and working, he's like, blah, 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 which is fine. So I asked the question when I woke up this morning at 8:30. I thought, okay, so are we doing this show at 7 p.m. or are we doing it at noon? And Steve's like, noon. Kristina Rutherford's on. Now, we've been preparing for Kristina Rutherford to be on for a month, and I know...
You are the Frank Ocean album of guests.
Yeah, and I knew you were going to be on. I was like, yeah, I know. I just wanted to know the time. He's like, Kristina Rutherford, she's going to be on. Here's the message. So... without any further ado, Kristina Rutherford, welcome to the Steve Dangle Podcast. Long overdue. And now, before we fully introduce you, can you run down your job description? Because I don't know what your specific title is. I just know stuff about you.
Oh, okay. It's
all I ever say is, she's great.
Yeah.
She worked for Sportsnet, she's great.
Oh, thanks. Writer. I'm a writer for Sportsnet Magazine and Sportsnet.ca. That's it.
Amazing.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. You enjoying it?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's so fun.
Well, I ran down your articles in the last week and a half, and it's like baseball, tennis, baseball, football. Like it's like
all over the
you're
place.
everything, and that has to be quite the balancing act.
Yeah. Well, it's actually fun too. Like last week, I was covering golf and tennis.
Yeah,
And then
like day to day
baseball. Yeah. So you actually don't know a lot about one thing. You know what I mean? You know very little about everything.
I disagree.
I don't know if I would want to admit that.
Oh, it's true.
Journalist Kristina Rutherford.
I'm just being honest. I mean, I can float into I float into an area, and maybe at one point I know all of Jagr's stats, and then it just empties from my brain, and then all I know is about Brooke Henderson or Milos Raonic or whoever it is, and then it empties. It's a bad memory too.
That's like me in long division. That's a lot of the things from elementary school just tumbled out, and now I know Aki Berg was drafted top 5. It's just there.
Yeah. Useless information.
Mm-hmm. It's not useless at all.
Okay.
So you're see, I know you don't like getting your tires pumped, but
Steve has a huge work crush on you.
I do.
Like he just, I've never seen Steve so excited.
Crazy.
I do, because you know,
blows my mind.
You're what I know a lot of like aspiring sports journalists or sports writers or even YouTube commentators, whatever, watch this show. And I think you are what they should strive to be, which is well-rounded in what you can talk about.
Okay.
Well, no, like you canceled on us.
She's really uncomfortable with this.
I know you are. Yeah. You canceled on us to interview Eugenie Bouchard. Mm-hmm. I couldn't talk to Jenny Bouchard about anything tennis related because I barely know the difference between singles and doubles.
Okay.
Like,
and then the next day you can write a full article on baseball.
Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean. Yeah.
I know one thing and I do it well, I think.
Yeah.
YouTube videos.
That's valuable.
I think it's valuable, I guess, but what you do extremely well, and you don't need to know any one sport particularly well to ace this, is people and interesting stories.
Oh, thanks.
Like, I was listening. I like to think of myself as a Shannon Zabados fan, for example.
Right?
And
lovely lady. Lovely.
Of course you know she's a lovely lady because you spoke to her. Mm-hmm. And like you were talking about, they give a sermon before the games that she plays in?
It is insane, yeah. So I went to Columbus, which I originally thought was in Ohio, but it's not. It's in Georgia. There's a Columbus in Georgia. I almost booked a flight. Yeah, there's another one of my strengths. I almost booked a flight
I'm with you.
Yeah. Anyway, it's in Georgia, and before every game there, they have a pastor who comes out on the ice and does a prayer. Like, it's insane. And then the team skates through this inflatable blue snake head, and there's lights, and there's smoke, and, like, I wanted to be on the team so badly.
Oh.
It's, like, the coolest experience ever. Hockey in the Deep South, and she's, you know, the one female in the league, so obviously a really unique experience for her,
That
to
makes,
say the least.
like, the whole time I thought they played in Columbus, too.
Right?
And it never occurred to me that it would be weird that Columbus, Ohio has an SPHL team, a
Right?
Southern Pacific Hockey League team.
Right.
So when I pitched the story, so we have story meetings and we pitch stories, I also said, I can do something on the Blue Jackets while I'm there.
Oh,
And nobody said anything. 'Cause
So nobody knew.
Nobody knew. Yeah. So we're not alone. It's okay.
Well, and that's the thing that I think we're most excited to talk to you about today is, you know, the fact, the way Steve describes you, it's like you're a Vietnam vet. He's like, she's been around. She's seen some stuff.
I'm old.
And-
That means I'm old.
No, it's
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're old.
no, Jeff
just-
Merrick's old.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
and let's not
true.
even get into the wrinkles on Wyshynski's face lately. I
Oh,
mean,
my
come
goodness.
on. But
Wait till he comes back from Rio.
But there's something I want to address. I think there's something we should address, and it's something that I think is pretty obvious at this point to everybody.
I
You know,
wonder
it's-
what it is.
Well, it's 25 degrees outside, and you're wearing full jeans, and you biked here. Like, I don't
know.
understand what the.
I didn't even notice that.
What's wrong? Why do you make poor life decisions?
I know. I usually bring clothes and then I bike in other clothes, and today I was too lazy to change.
Right.
Lazy. Sorry.
And the
Makes
other
you a
thing
bad
is-
athlete, but good at talking to athletes.
Right.
So that's good. You got to be a bit of a lunatic to talk to athletes.
And I guess the follow up to that is, you know, obviously you have a higher pitched vocal range, and
Well put. Well,
and I think, I mean, let's just nip that in the bud right now, because there is times where, I mean, God, people, it's so funny. People, with their voices, I've never seen people who are full of confidence crumble faster than when they hear their own voice recorded. It's unbelievable.
you can't even imagine what it's like for me. I'm just kidding. It's not that
No,
bad.
it's not
I'm
that
used to
bad?
it. I'm
Oh.
used to it.
You are now.
It's quite
Yeah.
jarring, though. Like, it's pretty jarring. I was actually in the tennis media center, I guess, late last week, and they did a feature on Milos Raonic, and I was in the car asking him questions, and one of my questions appeared on television, which I didn't know that was happening, which is fine, but the whole media center, like, whipped around and looked at me, and I was like, it wasn't me! There's only one person that could have been, you know, it's
Right.
me, or a child. I mean, and there weren't any children in the car, so it was me.
What's great, though, about your story and about you is, I imagine you next to these big lumbering athletes, right? These guys who are, you know, just
Raonic, she was like 7'12".
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
you know
you're
your tennis.
here you come this petite thing, and you're asking these hard-hitting questions.
This petite.
No, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I just, you're asking these hard-hitting questions.
Sometimes.
Hard-hitting, yeah, sometimes, and they got to look and go, geez, you know, and then you, like you said, these stories that you have to going into this situation going into these locker rooms, into the psyche of these people, takes a real sort of special personality. When did you think that you were the type of person that would be capable of that?
That's a good question. Okay, so I'd probably dial it right back to my first ever job was at the Oakville Beaver. Great community newspaper.
Wow.
Right?
Oakville Beaver.
Right? Loved it. Such a good experience because it's such a small newspaper. So I was an intern there. The news guy got sick. Stephen Harper was rolling through town. I had to sit down with Stephen Harper, like sweaty intern. Yeah.
Your first interview was Stephen Harper?
Not my first.
Oh, okay.
interview. First, I was like at art galleries, or I don't even know what I was doing at. I don't know. So, okay, first time I went into a pro locker room was Damon Allen is from Oakville, and I always wanted to cover sports, but I was on the arts and entertainment beat, which did not go well for me. I once went to an art show, and I was like, "Oh, you guys are still setting up," and it was like a piece of art.
Oh.
But it was straws on a mat. In my defense, it was like straws on a mat. I thought they weren't
That's a
done.
thing? Do you have a picture of that?
No.
I wish you
didn't
did.
even think I had a phone back then, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it was really long.
I don't think she wanted to commemorate that moment.
That too. Yeah. That wasn't the right fit for me. That was pretty clear. Anyway, so I was kind of following Damon Allen a lot, and he was about to break a passing record of some sort.
Warren Moon's passing
of
record.
some sort all time. Okay, big deal. So I went to the Argo game that day, and I think it was Beth Waldman, if I remember correctly, was the Argos PR woman, and I told her I wanted to talk to him after the game, and I had never been in a locker room before. Like, I don't know anything. And she just put this pass around my neck and pushed me through the door and said, "Keep your eyes on the ground." Literally. Literally. And I don't think, I got the impression being in there that they hadn't seen a woman in that locker room in quite some time, maybe ever. I don't really know, because there was like a bit of shock when I walked over, and Damon Allen actually addressed it, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, Kristina, what can I answer your questions?" And I was like, "Sure." And there was like a scrum of people around him. So I asked like 4 questions, then ran out. But after that, I feel like everything else has been easy, you know? Because that was different.
Once you get past like the first one.
Yeah. And then you just get used to it, I think. Yeah. I mean, you're in somebody else's room. I think about it a lot. I played hockey in university, and we never had reporters walk in. I think if we did, we would all be like, "This is our space. What are you doing here?"
Right.
You know? So there is that
And it is kind of a sacred space, right? That's the athlete.
is.
That's the home of your team.
Yeah. And it's become a little different, right? Like, it seems like most teams have their locker room, and then they have this space where they actually hang out. And this is where they go to talk to media and kind of put their stuff on, but they have this other area. But anyway, yeah. So that's when I thought, I guess I can do this, because I just did.
Because you just walked in and did
And it was awkward. Yeah.
So
Wow.
And that's I think that's what we love. Your writing is and this is the funniest thing, you know. I don't think we make enough of in this age that we have, right? In the era that we're in, writing is so prolific, right? There's so much out there. We don't make enough of the great writers. There are a lot of people writing. There are not a lot of great writers. And one of the things that I think is a real shame, especially in sports writing, is the fact that we don't make superstars of the journalists anymore. We don't pick those people out and go, "These guys are the best ones." Some of them do, but I feel like it's always like, well, here's Ken Rosenthal from Fox, and we like him and he blogs, but he doesn't write articles. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to sort of get back to that, because I think it's really quite important. And the thing about your writing is that it really pulls you right into the narrative, and that's the fun thing about writing it. So when you talk about stories, when you look back on your career so far, what's the most, like, the moment where you're like, wow, this is I just got into that person's head and I'm going to write this story and I'm so excited about this, or what was that thing?
That's a tough one. I might say Jose Canseco.
That's an interesting head to get into.
And
did you get lost in that head, or because that's a scary head?
It's just full of tweets.
Yeah.
No grammar.
I've never had a more insane work experience than that. So I went to Las Vegas and spent 2 days with him. Maybe we'll just get this out of the way. He asked me to fake an orgasm on the golf course.
Okay.
Why?
You want to get what? I'm glad you addressed that. All right. So hold on.
We're going to be here a while.
This is a podcast.
Right.
This is not radio. This is not TV. So we got time. Tell me what the circumstances were that led up to Jose Canseco asking you to do that.
Okay, so there was a bit of a lead up in that. So I pitched a story on it. I know. I'm sorry.
By this.
Yeah, my mom was really shocked. I didn't do it, for the record. No.
Well, no.
So I pitched a story on him because he was tweeting about wanting to be invited to the All-Star game, so trying to get votes, even though he's not on the ballot, trying to make his return. And somehow I got a hold of his agent, and I spoke to him on the phone, and he was like, "Oh, you're Canadian, nobody will read it. Sure. Come on down and visit." That was basically what he said. Like,
you're from the Podunk village of Toronto.
Yeah.
And so I went with a photographer, and I think this was day one, actually. And he really was intrigued by my voice, you know? He was talking about it a lot, and I was like, yeah, okay. You'll get used to it, I swear. And then he was golfing with these 2 kids that he played poker with. Like, I guess you could call them friends, but I probably wouldn't. They were just like so excited to be golfing with Jose Canseco, right? And his biceps are still like double pythons, and he's got these gleaming white teeth and this tan. You could just like throw him in a uniform and you wouldn't even flinch.
A walking baseball card.
Yes. Yeah.
Seriously. Or just like a big superhero cartoon. That's what he looks like. So they were golfing, and I think he was like trying to impress his friends, and he was talking about my voice and trying to get me to say different things. Like, I'm not a parrot. And then he was like, oh, I wonder what it would sound like, and that's when he got to.
Oh my God.
And then he wanted to turn it into like a 99-cent ringtone. He had all these ideas for this money he could make.
Is this a movie?
So Jose, his head is really full of tweets then, right? Because that's something he would tweet, right? Like that's just,
I'm gonna get people to say things
No, but okay.
and make it into a ringtone. I'm Jose Canseco. He should end every tweet with "I'm Jose Canseco."
yes, he should.
So I did not pick him based on your question about whose head did I feel like I got into. I spent 2 days with him, and at the end of it, like I found that it was quite sad. Like he's lost everything. He doesn't really have family around him. He was about to sign this other baseball contract, and baseball's kind of destroyed him, and it's the love of his life. And he still felt like he could hit home runs, and he wanted this other chance. So it was a very sad story. But it did open with him asking me to fake an orgasm on the golf course.
Did you write that part?
Yeah, okay. So I came back, and I think the magazine was like a year old, and I'd never really written anything that long before for it either. So this was all very new. And I told the editor-in-chief, at that point it was Steve Mach, lovely guy, and he was like, you have to put that in there. And I was like, ooh, I really don't want to. And then he said, well, what is the first thing, if you're calling a friend and you're telling your friend about what happened, what's the first, and I was like, you're right. So, yeah.
And you led with that here, and we were like instantly.
I know, sorry. I wanted to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you? I feel like, and
that's not even one of the interviews I wanted to ask you about.
No,
I didn't even know you did.
No, I know you got like a list. We're gonna.
I know.
So, but the Jose Canseco, the thing about Jose Canseco is he seems like he's one of those people that's got a billion hanger-oners, and there's people that just kind of, that are just there to sap off the success or former success of this guy who used to make a lot of money.
He's one of those hippos that just sits in the river with a bunch of birds on his back.
Yeah.
They have a symbiotic relationship.
I feel like
and
that's
they just pick bugs off of him.
Honestly, when I look at Justin Bieber and the way he's lived some of his life, I feel like he's going to be the same way. Honestly, no.
I love this parallel.
There is, because these people, that I feel like that with, there's a lot of celebrities that have that. Lindsay Lohan's another one. I think Justin could go either way, right? Lindsay Lohan's another one with these people around her that are just not great. And he seems like a guy that wants to do well, but just doesn't know how. Is he exhausting? Like, were you exhausted at the end of those 2 days?
Yeah, of course. Well, it took a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to hang out with somebody like that, right? Yeah. And there was one point we were shooting him, and he just showered, and he had these potential business partners over, and they were talking about money, and he has this big dog, and we wanted the dog in the picture, and he just looked like this unhappy cartoon, and we're trying to take pictures of him. And at one point, the photographer was like, can you smile? Can you put your shoulder down? Whatever photographers do to get their perfect shot. And he kind of lost it on the photographer, and he was like, you're not money, they're money, pointing at these business guys. So he was like, my focus is on these people because they could give me money and you're not paying me, So, so that part,
Imagine
you could
saying
call him
that.
moody. But I really liked him is the thing. Like at the end of it, I really liked him because I felt like he was, I can't properly explain it, but I just felt like he had these people living at his house and they were friends of his ex-girlfriend. Like he's doing everything he can to help people. He goes to the batting cages and he met up with this kid with special needs, and it really wasn't like a politician photo op. He does this every week. So I feel like there's a good person in there.
It just doesn't know how to make that person the person all the time.
Yeah, and he's good at making money. Like he is. He's taking advantage of every opportunity, right? So his crazy persona on Twitter is just a crazy persona, And it gets him attention.
Right.
Gets
So
him
he's
invites
not-
places.
He's not really like that?
He's a little bit like
He's a little bit like that? Okay. So he's not hamming it up that much?
it's like
I think part of that's got to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't make that up.
I don't want to defend him too much, but I don't want to rip him either, right? Like he was genuine with me and he was honest about his life, and he's been bankrupt and he's 2 divorces and he's also super inappropriate, but like I don't know, it's a balance between
Does he seem
all of that.
lonely? Is that why he has all these
He's
people around him?
lonely, yeah, for sure. And I don't know if he's still with. He'd just broken up with Layla, who was that after I left became his fiance.
Oh, so they
So-
got back together.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
good.
I don't. Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah.
And his daughter. He really cares about his daughter, whose name is Josie, which is the best. And I think she's a model or something.
Yeah, she's an Instagram star.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
But it's,
Josie
Long answer, sorry.
Canseco.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you
That
just
took
get
me
it?
a sec.
do you? Oh wow!
as Kristina pats him on the
It's
back.
9 in the morning.
I gotta get this coffee in me.
It's 1 in the afternoon.
I know.
Should be sharp. Okay.
Well,
I was at
yeah.
the cottage all weekend.
Fair. Fair.
Steve, you have a bunch of names in your mind that, and I'm going to give you a moment here because I know you're
No,
coughing.
I'm good.
We've got about 7 minutes here before we go to break on the first part of the first segment of the show. What are those names that you want to talk to Kristina about? We got to go through this list. Like
Oh my
literally, we're
goodness.
just going to be that cut and dry about it.
The top 2 to prioritize, Phil Kessel, for sure. You did a long one on Phil Kessel, and John Scott, which is one of the best damn things I've ever read. Like it's just such a good feature.
So
I'm
we're
sorry.
going to do Phil now, and
I
then
have
when we
your
come back from
autograph,
break,
like-
when we come back from break, we'll do John Scott. But let's talk
Okay.
about that Phil Kessel. Is it anything specifically?
Well, one thing you started to touch on, Adam, but a lot of people write today. A lot of people write.
And that's a good thing, by the way.
It's a great thing.
Please don't be offended
Yeah.
by the fact that I said everybody writes and not everybody's good at it.
Professionally, there's amateurs, people who are finding their way.
Totally,
You-
development.
The only way to become a better writer is to write. I think.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still working, and I've been doing it for 10 years. Ooh, I don't know, a while.
Your
It
experience.
hasn't been 10 years, to be fair. It hasn't.
I've been in broadcasting 10 years. It's not that bad.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
10
but
years is
you're
fine.
friggin' Doogie Howser.
You started when you were 12.
Yeah,
it
18,
doesn't
yeah.
count.
Yeah, you're right.
But you are something that's, I think, rare today, and that's you have writing that I'm sorry. You have writing that you need to make time for. You can't read it in passing. You can't. No, you have to. You're sitting down and enjoying this. You're not. This isn't.
You're making time for it.
Yeah. This
Yes.
isn't. You have to make time.
It's a feature. So,
Yeah.
and it's called the Big Read,
That's
isn't it?
sort of what the magazine does,
long
right?
read.
There's at least one story in every magazine where you just have to sit down and enjoy it. And they're always good. Like, not to pump our tires, but we invest in them and we send people places and we do lots of interviews and, they're good stories.
So Phil Kessel, is he the most misunderstood sports personality or non-personality, depending upon who you ask, to come through Toronto ever?
Ooh. Ever in Toronto. He's up there. He's definitely up there. I think people just didn't know him while he was here. I think people still don't really know him because he doesn't really let you get to know him, right? Like he's kind of like a deer in headlights when you get a camera on him, which is what he was like in Toronto the whole time. He wasn't worth talking to, right? While he was here, he wasn't a good
And yet
quote.
when he didn't talk and didn't
was-
give you the same damn quote night after night,
Yeah.
people lost their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I love so much about that article is very early on in it, he's asking you, a reporter / writer, why you're asking him questions.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
It
I want to know about all the behind the scenes stuff with this.
Okay, so do you want how it started?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be, the Leafs were supposed to make the playoffs that year. I can't even remember what year it was.
I want to say 13,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I want to say 13, 14,
Okay.
the year after they made it.
So
Oh,
it was,
the Clarkson years.
yeah.
Year.
It was looking like they were going to make it, and I actually got assigned this story by an editor. So he was going to be sort of our look at the Leafs heading into the playoffs. And then, of course, they go on this slide. But I was still kind of, pursuing an interview with him. And I'd spoken to his agent, and his agent had said, yeah, Phil knows you're coming. You have 10 minutes today. Go to practice. I would show up at practice, and Phil would disappear. And then I would ask Leafs PR, and they'd be like, yeah, Phil's not talking today. And I would explain, I spoke to his agent. Like, I knew his agent's phone number off by heart at this point. So that happened 3 times. And I remember James Reimer was like, don't take it personally. Tyler Bozak told me to change my story. And then my story kind of became...
Told you to change your story?
Yeah, he's like, maybe you should write about something else.
Like, don't do it on Phil at all?
Yeah, because he's not going to talk to you. And I was like...
And
this is why we talk to you about him, Tyler, all the time.
Right, yeah.
That's Phil's real agent, or was.
Yeah, really.
Exactly.
His PR rep.
Yeah. So then, of course, they don't make the playoffs, so we're not doing that story. I get a call from his agent in the summer, and he's like, okay, we have to get Phil in front of you. We know this is like 3 strikes. Like, just try once more. Go to this practice in the summer. It's training camp. So I go, and Phil is sitting there, and he's taking off his shin pads, and the room's open, and he's always like the first guy off the ice. So usually he's not even there by the time the room's open, but the room's open. So he pretended that he knew I was coming, and he was like, how long do you need? And I was like, 15 minutes. And then we sat down for an hour.
Wow.
And and he was so candid.
I'm going to stop you right there because it's a perfect tease to go into break with. So what it was like, what candid Phil Kessel was like, we will talk about that next on the Steve Dangle podcast on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. And of course, if you download it on a podcast, it's podcast.
And the internet.
And the internet. LOL. We kind of just left you on a cliffhanger. Kristina Rutherford is in the studio. She's a writer for Sportsnet Magazine at sportsnet.ca, and you do the longer pieces, the things where you get really in depth with people. And one of the people you talked to, and Steve brought this up, was Phil Kessel. And so you go into this practice facility in the middle of the summer after missing him 3 times because he wouldn't talk to you. Mm-hmm. And then you walk up to his locker. You say, can I have 15 minutes because we want to do this? And he proceeds to talk to you for an hour. And you got probably the most candid Phil Kessel we might have had while he was in Toronto.
That could be true. I don't know that he ever talked to anybody for longer than 5 minutes, otherwise, while he was in Toronto. So, we kind of went around a corner, and he sat in a computer chair. We were outside the equipment room, and at this point, I had spoken to, honestly, 10 people about him. So I'd spoken to Blake Wheeler, one of his best friends, and he was like, just talk to him about his dog. He'll talk for days about his dog. So I think I led with Stella, his dog, and then it just went from there. Like, I was just asking him weird questions, like, what's in your fridge? What's the last concert you went to? Asking him about his siblings. His mom told me that he did gymnastics, and he was so embarrassed about that. He was quite the little gymnast. He was like, don't put that in there. Obviously I did. But yeah, it was like talking to your neighbor almost, if you had a lot of weird questions for your neighbor. But it was very comfortable.
I do. I have a few questions.
What's in your fridge?
Yeah.
What do you think, having that conversation with him, what do you think most people would be surprised about when it came to Phil? What was the thing that, maybe there was a perception of lack of character, lack of care, like lack of give a S. We're on the radio part, so I can't actually say give a darn to Phil. And I mean, we're not believers or subscribers to that on this podcast. We just think he was quiet and introverted, which people are.
Yeah.
What do you think was that thing that would surprise people?
I think so. Part of the reason he was misunderstood is because he's super shy. And I think he has some kind of, I don't know, he just like freezes, or I don't know what happens. Maybe he's getting a little more comfortable, but a lot of people are like that, right? In the spotlight. And he's in the biggest hockey market on the planet, and he's the guy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he just didn't handle it well. But to question whether he cares, I mean, after talking to him, I would never question whether he cared. And you could talk about his lack of back checking, but if you listen to him talk about how much he cared about hockey in the city and the feeling of what it was like when they were in the playoffs, like that's all he wanted, and you got that sense sitting down with him for sure. So that's one thing, but also that he has a personality at all. I think that's probably the most surprising thing, because I don't think fans ever saw that. They didn't know Phil the way they knew Dion Phaneuf, or the way they thought they knew Dion Phaneuf while he was here. He just wasn't open about anything.
That's how closed off Phil Kessel was, that you thought Dion Phaneuf was what he strived to be, personality wise.
Didn't we see, we saw the inside of Dion Phaneuf's closet at one point? He had so many pairs of shoes. I felt like I got to know him.
Just yanking the teeth out of his head, though, Kristina.
I know.
Phaneuf played ball. The one thing I will always respect with him is he played ball. But God, you could tell he hated every second.
Yeah.
And Kessel wasn't about.
He just wasn't even. He wasn't going to show to the game.
And Blake Wheeler actually called him a genius. He was like, he's so bad with the media that people at this point don't really want to talk to him. He's a genius. He just goes and hides, and they talk to somebody else. And it's true. That's what happened most of the time.
When you specifically in that conversation, in these conversations when you do interviews, right? At least for me, they kind of flash, right? You do it and they're done, and you're like, holy smokes! Unless it's a terrible interview.
What just happened?
Yeah. Unless you're terrible interview and you're live on camera and 5 minutes feels like 5 years, but. When you're sitting down and you had a conversation with him and there was no cameras there. What from that conversation that you had stood out specifically?
I think probably when he was talking about when he had cancer, because we were kind of going through his career and leading up to everything, and he kind of glossed over that a little bit. He said, yeah, it was tough, but you do what you have to do. And then...
the most Phil answer ever.
Yeah, and it was it was reverting back to...
do what you gotta do.
he talks about cancer like it was a bad pinch.
Yeah. It was an inconvenience.
Honestly.
He missed a pass.
Yeah. And his mom had told me, she was never more proud of him than when he went up in front of a room of reporters and told people to get their checkups and talked about his own experience. But
at 19.
And
amazing.
Yeah, crazy for him to go through that, obviously. But he sort of leaned back in his chair and then he was like, yeah, I cried. And he kind of talked about how emotional it was. And that surprised me because I just never thought I was going to get, I don't know. We were talking about what's in his fridge and how much he loves his dog, and I didn't feel like we were going to get to anything kind of emotional. So that surprised me for sure.
That's interesting. That's really because he's a bit of an enigma even for and obviously we were always huge fans of him here, but he's still an enigma. He's still there's always going to be, and Steve did a video right after he left, how we wasted that era and wasted that talent because we didn't surround him. And arguably did the same thing with Matt Sundin when he was here.
At least they got a couple conference finals. Yeah,
for sure. And they, by the way, could buy their way to that at that point, right? But as soon as it came to having an unbelievable talent, we just didn't surround him with much, and it's almost like a what could have been. What if Phil Kessel was on the Leafs now? That's right.
That's a good looking team.
And the thing is, they didn't have to trade him, and the Leafs would still probably look like the team they do right now. They maybe not have Austin Matthews. You have 30, 40 more goals. You're probably not you're not probably getting Austin Matthews, but you'd have Nylander, you have Marner, and it's an interesting what if for this team, and obviously. He's gone on. He's won his cup, and that's amazing.
Right, yeah.
When you saw him win, were you like, hell yeah?
Yeah,
Good
absolutely. Yeah, I was happy for him for sure. I mean, yeah, I liked him. I really liked him. Sitting down with him, it was a fun conversation, and honestly, there was no pretentiousness. I didn't feel like I was sitting down with one of the best hockey players on the planet, which sometimes when I am sitting down with one of the best hockey players I know that I'm sitting down with you, right? And I did not, honestly, he could have been my neighbor. That's how it felt. It was just very comfortable conversation, and I liked that about him,
Do you know about certain, legends about him, if they're true? There was one I heard where he didn't have time to clean his condo or whatever, so he just left it really messy. And the cleaning lady or whatever came in, and he's like, "Sorry, I left it so messy," and just left her a check for $4,000.
Oh my gosh!
Is that?
I didn't.
I don't remember
that.
who I heard that from. I feel like that was on the podcast once.
What? I don't remember that.
A long time ago.
Well, it wouldn't be any shock if I didn't remember it. I have terrible memory, but that's that's one of those guys. We just wish we could have seen, could have unlocked that, and we saw it in Pittsburgh, and it's kind of like another one in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I would say, to the listeners not from Toronto, and some of the ones that are, you'd be surprised how many people in Toronto sports media, who are, evil devil people. I think the vast majority, in the eyes of people, right? Mm-hmm. I think the vast majority, when Kessel won, were like, yeah, that's awesome. Almost every single one I've talked to. I think there's 2 or 3 that really were not stoked about it, and that's who everyone associates Toronto with.
Those 2 or 3. Yeah.
I think he's just such a damn fantastic story.
So Steve, you brought it up. John Scott.
Like, how is this not the most read sports article of all time?
What do you love about this?
Whoa.
Let's talk about this.
She went to Newfoundland and got screeched in with John Scott.
And for everybody that doesn't know what screeched in means, for our American listeners
yes.
especially.
Oh, so you go to Newfoundland and you become an honorary Newfoundlander by going to a bar. I believe you have to have some kind of piece of meat. I forget what it's made of.
Is it not a trout?
I have the worst memory, too.
It's like ham or something.
Oh,
right?
wait, you fit in perfectly
Ham
here.
that was on a stick.
Or kielbasa?
It was ham or kielbasa on a toothpick.
Yeah.
I didn't even taste it.
You eat the ham. You do a little song.
We've been drinking.
Yeah. No, in Newfoundland?
I know.
You do a little dance and a song. You kiss a cod.
Oh, that's
codfish on the mouth.
On the mouth.
And then you do a shot of Newfie Screech, which is an especially strong rum that they have in Newfoundland. The percentage is only like 46%. Like, it's not like 151 proof or anything. But
kind of like a rocket going off in your head.
There is something magical about it.
And then you get a certificate for your fridge.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had ours like in this corner of the bar trying to keep them pristine,
Yeah.
Don't spill anything
So
on
hard.
us.
Let's laminate every one of them.
Yeah,
Sure.
right there.
Here's your placemat.
So you did this with John Scott.
Yeah.
Which is, here's the thing. We hated him after what he did to Kessel.
Right?
But then this year, it's so funny how life works, because we could not have been bigger fans of what happened with the All-Star game.
It was the best.
Crazy fun.
It was the best story for hockey. It really was.
And the NHL tried to get in the way of it, and they traded him, and they did everything that they could to make that not happen, because the NHL hates fun, and we know that. But for you, when you talked to John, and this was before all of this, right?
No, this was after.
It was after.
This.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was while he was with the St. John's Ice Caps.
Yeah, I think he'd been there a week when we got there, or 2.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So right at the height of it.
At the height of it, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us.
Okay.
What do we need to know?
So, yeah, John Scott, I don't want to use the neighbor example again, but he's such an everyman. He talks about his kids a lot. But we got there, I think I got there just before a game was starting, met the PR guy who was like swamped, has never had more requests in his life. What's happening here? It was awesome. And he was lovely. I don't think he got screeched in, but he drank a lot with us. It was really fun.
The PR guy or John Scott?
Both. The whole team was out. It was so fun. Okay, so we got there during a game, photographer and I, and we watched John Scott go into the locker room after the game and like slam his stick. They'd lost. It was not a good game. And I thought, ooh, this is not going to go well, because I hadn't really told him what my plans were. He knew that we were coming there.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's not something you tell someone in a bad mood.
So I did it anyway. He came back out, and I told him, I was thinking we could get you screeched in, and we could go to Signal Hill and do all this touristy stuff with you and just spend like a couple days in Newfoundland with John Scott. And he was like, awesome. Come to my house. This is my phone number. Pick me up at this time.
Like a true Newfoundlander.
Yeah.
Come to my house.
Yeah.
Here's my phone number. My door's unlocked.
Yeah, and his door was unlocked.
I bet it was. Not surprised.
Yeah. So, yeah, we spent the day with him, went up to Signal Hill. I had like a little video camera. I was following him around. He was playing tour guide. He did a bunch of videos for us. We took his dry cleaning in. We let him. We gave him time to have a nap because we felt like we were really in his space for most of the day, because we were. Went out for dinner, got screeched in, which was the, I don't know, top 3 moments that I think I've ever seen was John Scott kneeling on the floor, looking as though he's standing because he's 18 feet tall.
Enormous. Yeah.
And he was kneeling beside this bachelorette girl from I'm not sure where, but she was pretty minute, so she just looked like I can't do justice to the scale. And just how excited he was like a 6-year-old kid when this fish came around, gave it like 7 kisses so we could get different pictures. At this point the cod's frozen. At this point it's like dripping on the floor. We're in this old bar called Christian's Bar. There's like music playing. There's a guy in a rain suit that's been dancing and singing for us. It was just like, I'm getting paid for this. What? Right?
It's amazing.
Good work day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and it's first of all, it's such a testament to Newfoundland because it's impossible not to have a good time in St. John's. Like, it's just, you just can't.
Absolutely.
It's the best. But the...
Are you from the East Coast?
No, I wish.
Where are you from?
From here.
Right.
I thought I remember you saying
Well, it's not that bad. We're all from here, too.
I know. It's so boring.
It is, yeah, I guess.
Where are you from? Exotic Ontario?
Yeah. Tropical.
Pickering.
We're from in Toronto.
The West End.
Oakville?
No, like close to Hyde Park-ish area. That'd be the big landmark.
Oh, you're like Toronto Central.
Toronto, yeah.
Wow.
I went to Humberside, which is where Michael Grange, Jeff Merrick, like there's a lot of Erica
talented
Diamond,
people. Wow.
all these Sportsnet people went to Humberside.
Yeah,
Erica
well,
Diamond
Paul
was
Tracy
right
went to
at the
our
start.
high school.
What?
And so did the Bare Naked Ladies. So you can...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we came from a talent pool, too.
That's
so,
huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
not...
Yeah.
But I think, the thing about John at that time is, I mean, it was really all eyes on him, even when he was in the AHL. When he talked about that to you, what did you get that he was taking in at that time? Like, how do you think he felt about it? Was he uncomfortable with it? Was he having a good time with it? Was he upset by it? Like, what was it?
So he was having a good time, but okay, so remember his wife was pregnant with twins. So
And
it was the least ideal situation that you can possibly dream up, really. And he didn't have, the kindest things to say about Coyotes management and how that was dealt with.
I think you wrote he wanted to strangle Don Maloney.
So that's,
Sounds like the ownership did too. That's why they got rid of him.
So that's funny because we talked a few times, and a few times he was just talking, and I wasn't sure if he wanted to be on the record, and I just felt like anything I wasn't sure about, I was going to send him. So I sent him a couple paragraphs, and they were pretty strong, like him saying he wanted to strangle somebody. That's quite strong. And somebody actually was reading it, like copy editing it, and said, I don't know that this is okay, but I sent him like all this strong language that he'd used, and he just wrote me back, "That's great," with like 3 exclamation points.
Awesome.
So he was very candid. It was not ideal. He was having fun though. He liked the team, but he just wanted another shot in the NHL, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Still does, right?
Still does, yeah. And if he got... Yeah, there were a couple of ideal situations, but it would all have to be good for his family, right? Like, it was all about his family and making sure his wife wasn't overwhelmed, and which she probably was. I mean,
oh my, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
In the story, he joked with you about his point streak. So did he care about being perceived as a skilled player and not just a tough guy?
I don't think he wanted... that's a good question. I don't know that he... I don't think he ever thought anybody would perceive him as a skill player. Mm-hmm. Like, he certainly knew his role, but I also don't think he saw himself as this enforcer that just came in to fight. Although he talked about his fights and was, like, pretty happy he was 2-0. He was like, I'm 2-0. But, yeah, I don't think he was necessarily comfortable with that being his sole identity, right? Mm-hmm. Which at that point, it kind of was. It was, and then the All-Star game happened, and then his identity just became like the greatest story.
Literally
in a
Disney
long time.
Character.
Yeah.
A Disney character. Yeah, it was insane. When they lifted him on their shoulders at the end, I was just like, what? Who's making the movie?
But it's so nice. Yeah, and they will.
And
they
yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that got us
June
about
3.
that whole thing, they hated, the NHL hated that.
Yeah.
Coyotes hated that.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal Canadiens, they hate anything fun. And it's so amazing that against all of that all happened. And so I guess it was a not ideal time and that sort of thing. Do you think John, with your perception of him, do you think John will go into broadcasting after it's all done?
Yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. You think he'll be a pretty good broadcaster? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. We had a little camera there, and I don't even remember if I gave him like any warning. I just kind of like put it in his face while he was at the bar, and I was like, and I asked him to basically promote the story and tell people what they're going to be reading so we could put it on our website. And he just like fired off this minute-long beauty, hit stop. All right, we're set. Like,
really?
He's good.
That's hard to do.
That's really hard.
Yeah. No, but he's great.
We have to go on the radio portion of the Sportsnet 590 The Fan Steve Dangle podcast. However, we're going to talk a lot more about your career, your life, Kristina. We're going to get right into the personal details, where you grew up.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. Who your first boyfriend in high school was.
What's in your fridge?
What is in your fridge? But that'll be on the podcast portion, which you can download at sportsnet.ca, or if you've got Google Play, if you've got iTunes, whatever, that's where you can find this show. It's brought to you by Panago Pizza. It's what's on the inside that counts, as we saw with John Scott. And we will be right back for everybody listening online. Steve, you still have some questions about Johnny Scottman.
I know. You're like, oh, we can move on to this, that. And I'm like, no, I'm not done.
Go.
Because there's all these things, like, we text back and forth, and I've been putting off talking to you about certain things because I'm like, we got to talk about it on the show. You are really good at kind of articulating a moment and a mood. And there was one in particular that really stood out to me in the John Scott piece. And it was written almost like it was a movie where he's talking to Bettman at the All-Star game, and Bettman goes, "Are we good?" But then there's this long pause where Scott just stares at him. Mm-hmm. How did he articulate that to you? I know how you wrote it, but...
So I think at that point we were eating breakfast. It was honestly like in between mouthfuls. He ate part of my breakfast.
Did you have a choice in that matter?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
offered. Yeah, I have a good appetite, but it was really big. So yeah, I think he ate like a couple sausages right off my plate. No problem. Just reached over. Very comfortable. But
Just bare paws.
yeah. So how did he articulate that? Yeah. I mean, he wasn't exactly careful in his words, as you saw. Like, he wanted to strangle somebody, and he said it. Yeah, you could tell that it wasn't the most pleasant interaction for him, but that he didn't really care. Like, after his wife said, "You have to do this. This will be a huge moment in your life. It could open up things in your career." It was kind of in his mind that he's doing this, and it sort of, Bettman wasn't really going to get in his way, unless he totally did, unless he could. Unless Bettman could absolutely prevent him from going.
Well, he could have.
But
I think Gary Bettman
unless
knew.
He chose to.
It's in Gary Bettman's position. I mean, his job is to protect the owners, which he does a good job of. But Gary Bettman also knows that if you rob the All-Star game of that, and I think he finally got it. I don't think he understood the temperature of the room, and I don't think Gary Bettman's good at reading the temperature in any room he walks into. But I think even you couldn't walk away from the swell of just the passion behind it. And if you're running a company, anytime you can get passion behind your product at all, you go with it, right?
For
and
sure.
that's even so. Bettman as the villain in this story, and I would say the head villain, and Maloney's the henchman, and so is Bergevin. He was a party to it. There was a real good versus evil thing going on. The real narrative there, and I think that's the easiest narrative to sell.
For sure. And to get back to your question, there are parts of that conversation that didn't make it into the magazine.
Could they make it onto the podcast?
No.
Okay, fine.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. No, that is understandable.
So what you need to do, podcast listeners, is you need to get Kristina Rutherford out and get her drunk, and then
Get her.
and then maybe we'll hear some
Yeah.
Do you
stuff.
feel like getting screeched in again?
I would.
I got a fish in my freezer. Let's go. So, okay, we were talking between breaks about how we can find your stuff, and we didn't seem to really know.
Well, the best part was that you were like, I don't know.
Well, it's on the website, so you go to sportsnet.ca, and then I think you can search, you can search authors. So you could search my name, and then a big list should come up.
So you can do that, or you can do what I do often, which is like type in the name of the interview you want to read, like John Scott, and then your name, Kristina Rutherford,
And
or
that's it.
Phil Kessel.
Well, and there's also a feed burner thing there, or not a feed burner, but the feed, like an alerts that you can set up when you like writers on the Sportsnet website, so that it'll actually send you a blast. So if people care to do that, that's the way to do it. That's how I looked at it. Like I Googled your name, because it's easier to Google your name and then go to Sportsnet.
Yeah.
That's how I get to my own blog.
Yeah,
the Steve Dangle blog.
So much easier. And then it was just like a full list of everything you've done.
Okay.
So
handy.
Yeah, I mean it's the stories that you tell are really kind of they're fun because they're beyond the nuts and bolts, right? You actually get when I was reading your Bouchard article, right, which was not a long form thing. It was just it was an article.
Yeah.
I felt like I was sitting right beside her, listening to her these conversations. You know, especially when you right at the beginning when you talk about when Jeannie really felt like she came into her own, and that first quote where it says, "I don't know," you know, and that's the fact that you included that. It's like, boom, that I'm right there, I'm in it, and that's what the beauty of your writing, and that's why it's so much fun to read, and it's
thank you.
It's
really good with. Sorry, there was another one in the John Scott.
Go bring it up,
where you were talking about like how he's feeling. Being so far away from his twins, and just like I know exactly how he said it, like stressed.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
he was stressed out.
Yeah, he was trying to remember which twin had a birthmark, how he tells them apart. You know, like it was a really difficult time for him for sure.
They built this nest, in Arizona. They're like, all right,
yeah,
this is our base. This is where we're having these twins, and you're traded.
Yeah.
Thanks, baloney.
Yeah.
Don Baloney. Kristina, when you started out, what was, if you could name a person that you would have traded lives with because you wanted that career in terms of like, the goal of what you wanted to be, right? What did you want to be? What did you initially start going, when you worked at the Beaver, what did you hope that would lead to?
That's a good question. I've never actually... growing up, I read Chickadee and Owl magazines and Sports Illustrated for Kids. And I always wanted to write for Sports Illustrated for Kids. So I probably would say, when I was in school and thinking about, I want to be a sports writer in journalism school, I probably would have said Sports Illustrated. Because nothing existed at that point in Canada that was even close, right? Yeah. We have specialty magazines in this country, obviously, for every sport you can think of, but we didn't really have a general sports magazine. And then it was just kind of lucky timing in that I was working for a golf magazine, Score Golf, which was great.
With,
Bob Weeks, Peter Robinson, Jason Logan, all beauties.
How many people came from Score? Ridiculous.
Who do you know?
I interned at Score Golf for about 2 or 3 weeks.
You did? Oh, why was it so short?
It was like it's near like the airport, right?
It's hard to get to.
It was
and
a long haul in my 96 Ford Taurus station wagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hot car, no air conditioning. It was
tough to get to.
Yeah.
But great place. But anyway, while I was there, Sportsnet started this magazine, which shocked me. Like a new magazine in the 2000s.
They started it late.
Yeah. In this time period.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy. So, I jumped at that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, it's one of the things that you've been working on behind the scenes is something that I know, we know you're super pumped about. And can we talk about it? Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is huge. All right. I'm not even going to blow it by ruining it in the intro. Tell us.
Okay, this is the book.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the book. Yeah. That.
I was like,
I didn't want to say book.
Do I have this other news? I don't know. Okay, so the book's called Level the Playing Field. And then I think it's got a subtitle that's like...
That's cool. I actually really like that answer. So is it just... So you're working on it?
Yeah, no, it's actually... There is a real title, and it's been published. It's just not out yet. It comes out in October. So Level the Playing Field, if you search that and my name, it's for sale on Amazon right now. So you can pre-order it.
Oh my God.
For Christmas.
And you know what, Steve? You know what I love about this?
Stocking stuffer.
If either of us came out with a book, we literally sell it the same way. It's called this, and we can't remember the damn subtitle.
It's
we
Called
don't have that.
YouTube shit.
The past, present, and future of women's pro sports. That could be it. And it's for kids, and it's about women's pro sports. And it's been published by Owl Kids.
Which is awesome.
Maybe you're familiar with Owl and Chickadee magazines from when you were a kid, because they were the best.
Owl for sure.
Yeah, so they also have a large book publishing division, and I was approached to write this book to basically explain to kids why women's pro sports and men's pro sports look so different. So the age that it's catered to is probably 10 to 16, but like my parents read it and they learned something. So
How do you begin to explain that to that age group?
that's
Because it's all business, right?
It's all business, yeah. So it was actually, at times it was kind of disheartening to see the actual statistics and the differences in wages. I mean, it's insane, obviously. But we kind of broke it down, and John Crossingham was super helpful. He was the editor. We broke it down into 5 different chapters, and it looks at a different facet of pro sports. So it might be money, might be the history, the big stars, and kind of tackled it kind of piece by piece that way. But yeah, it's a hard thing to explain. But I think the tone of the book, it's optimistic because, and I think it should be because, I mean, in the last 10 years, we've seen a ton of change. And I mean, you look at the last Summer Olympics, the biggest star there was Jessica Ennis, now Jessica Ennis-Hill, because she was a local and she won the heptathlon.
Which is just a ridiculous sport, by the way.
Which is insane.
Why do people sign up for that? I look at that and I'm like, that
Honestly.
sounds terrible to do once, and you
Yeah.
train for that.
And what do you want to do? Something hard.
And how can you be good at
Something
all of those
extraordinarily
things?
difficult.
Yeah.
Like, how can you sprint and throw a javelin? You know, really
right?
far.
It's the
or
overachievers,
the
really.
shot put. I don't know.
Javelin's one of those things where I'm like, how do you get good at that?
Yeah.
I don't know where to find a javelin.
Some high schools, for some reason, let you throw a javelin.
Wow.
Yeah.
They really shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running, that's easy.
Well, this, and I'm not. So I was in New York this weekend,
Nice.
and I was doing a junket for Suicide Squad, which is part of the entertainment job that I do. One of the things that the director David Ayer said, he was asked about the cast. He was asked about, if you look at that cast, it's a very multicultural. Everybody's from a different background, different country, everything. And he said, I'm from the south of LA. He's like, I was the one white kid in school. And he said, I married a Latina woman. He said, my daughter is therefore a Latina. And he said, it's important that we see people that we can visually identify with in positions that we want to achieve. And that was I thought it was a really interesting way to answer that question, because he said absolutely, it's important to me that this cast was more than just white people, basically, right? And that's not to take away from one race over the other. But when it comes to sports, I mean, that is the toughest thing that we always see with women's sports. These young girls cutting out of it at 14, 15 years old because they don't see a future in it. I've got a family friend of ours who was the captain of the Ottawa University, Carleton, the Carleton hockey team. And for her, who has been a standout her entire life, has always been the top rung of women's hockey, not at the level that you'd make the Olympic team, but right there. Right there.
Well, there's
And
like
there's nothing
22
for her.
spots. If you're number 25, it's tough luck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there except for now we're seeing the NWHL and the CWHL and for you, how important is to furthering that? I guess my question would be. It's a really long question, but
No, it's hugely important, and I've honestly seen so many changes. So I grew up playing hockey. I've been playing since I was 6 years old, and I played, like I still play, but I played like a competitive level, and I coached high school hockey 2 years ago or 3 years ago at North Toronto. And we had this meeting at the school, and all these kids came in, and they were on these teams I've never heard of. And I was so happy about that. Like, there are probably, I don't know how many more options for young girls who want to play hockey in the GTA now. And I think that's happening everywhere. And then you're seeing the NWHL, you're seeing the CWHL. They're actually getting paid now. I mean, that's massive strides. And I think the more you're seeing that as a possibility, the more advertisers are seeing it as a possibility to promote their products. I mean, it's sort of, until you see it, you can't really picture it for yourself. And that's happening more and more in lots of sports, right? And not just in North America.
Did you talk to anyone in particular for that book? Because I know the U.S. women's soccer team has been like huge on the the equal pay.
Well, because they bring in more money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like the men's is like, why do they get paid more? It's ridiculous.
Where are they ranked?
Oh God!
Do they make the World
There's a
Cup,
video
typically?
from I think the Daily Show did it, and they talked about the fact that the women's soccer team players were talking about the fact that when they win, they get like $1,300. When the men win, they get like $20,000 or something.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like it's crazy.
It's insane. But what I've noticed about the States, like walking around Chicago a couple of years ago, I was struck by how many massive ads I saw about women's soccer. Like they really promote their athletes. I don't think we do a good enough job in Canada in general.
We don't do a good enough job of promoting anything in Canada.
Yeah.
We're just not good at the hype thing.
I think pick 3 or 4. And we go, that's
enough.
That's that. Christine Sinclair.
Yeah.
End of list.
Right.
Yeah.
That's who we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, and before that it was Haley Wickenheiser. And before that it was Cassie Campbell. That's our one person.
Yeah. So she's in the book, Cassie Campbell.
Oh, perfect.
So every chapter opens with an interview. And Cassie's the history. She's not that old.
No.
But she's the history chapter talking about all the changes she's seen and watching the first women get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like, that wasn't long ago, you know? So, and it wasn't long ago there was no Olympic dream. I mean, a lot has happened in not a lot of time, it's really encouraging. But obviously there's still massive strides.
Well, and for you, as a female journalist in a traditionally, especially sports, very male-dominated, is it important to you that people look to you and say, I want to be just like her? Because it's not an easy thing to get into, period, gender aside.
Right, yeah. Well, actually, I've talked to a few young women that want to get into sports journalism, and I always tell them, just go after it, because honestly, there's fewer women in this industry, and I think a lot of places like Sportsnet's one of them is looking for females to write, to do, sports journalism. So I feel like it can kind of help you if you're a woman that's interested in this as a job. And of course it's possible. Oh my gosh, of course it's possible.
How many people told you no?
I don't think anybody.
No?
I don't think so.
They wouldn't dare.
I mean, good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody ever said. No, I don't think
You
anybody.
can't. You're a lady.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever said that.
So that's progress to me.
And I think 20 years ago, if this was 20 years ago, I would have tons of no stories,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Kristina, I mean, I think, as I said before, we've got to talk about, we don't do enough to talk about the great writers. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is it seems, though, and I don't know that being in the spotlight's important to you. I don't think it is. Not at all.
Which makes you an even better writer, by the way.
It makes me uncomfortable.
So are you the Phil Kessel of writing? No, but
Writes hard.
Writes hard. Loves the writing.
Loves the game.
Loves the site. The thing though that I want to get your opinion on, and I understand you'll probably have to tread lightly on this question, is when journalists do develop a persona, it seems as though they do it because they have a pile-on mentality. And not like a pile on somebody. It's negativity. It's this. Oftentimes, it's and we can just say it's the Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless formula, which is, and they're not journalists, but you can.
Oh yeah,
really, Skip? They have this thing where it's like, I'm going to say something outrageous because I know that will draw the ire of this group of people, and it'll blow my article up clips wise.
Artificially inflammatory.
Yes, yes. Do you ever think about that and go, not that you would ever do it, but do you ever think about that and go, there's something weird about that system, there's something wrong about that system, or is it just a facet and you just kind of ignore it?
I don't know that I would say there's something wrong with it. I think it's supposed to spur conversation, and it does a really good job of that. Like sports talk radio, how one person has one opinion and the other person has the other, and then they fight. That's, or they argue, or sometimes they agree, but a lot of times they disagree. I feel like that's kind of an effort to get people talking, and often it's unfortunately inane comments that get people super fired up. That happens a lot, and then gets a lot of clicks on an article that you just shouldn't be giving time to. That part frustrates me for sure.
I like you.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, because the thing is you go and you tell these stories, and the stories are great, but then, one of the notorious journalists around here, and I won't mention them by name because it doesn't matter, if you weren't here, we would, but I don't want to put you on that spot because it would be uncomfortable. They're
really?
people that you...
I'll just drink water while you tell me.
Yeah. Well, okay. Do we want to say?
There, another camera can't see you.
All right. So, like, a Steve Simmons, a Dave Feschuk, I can keep naming names. How long can you drink for? These people that come out and they say these ridiculous things.
She had a crispy minis moment.
It must eat at you a little bit because you've done these great stories, and they're like, here's my opinion.
What?
And 60,000 Twitter followers later, and all of those things that build a persona and then make you seem like you're a big deal, and it seems artificially inflated. I think that's the way Steve put it.
I think there's a place for those opinions. Like, there's some great columnists out there, absolutely, and I think they all have moments where they're great. I mean, there's a reason they have their profile, and I don't think it takes away from the other writing. I sometimes feel like sometimes reading is a little bit catered to clickbait, right? So if there's a headline that's pretty compelling, you're going to click on it.
Oh, we've spoken about this at length.
I'll call one out. Yesterday, I was really disappointed in the Score. Who I admire as a website. PK Subban is telling jokes at a charity comedy event.
Just for laughs.
Just for laughs. The name of the frickin' thing is
and it's
Just for Laughs.
World renowned. Everybody's heard of Just for Laughs.
Yeah, and the title is Subban blasts
10 things PK said, and you won't believe number 6.
Yeah. Here's all his jokes.
We love lists.
And some people did list his jokes and whatever, but at least had the decency to mention what it was for. The article didn't even cite that it was I think it was raising money for the hospital. Mm-hmm. Come on, use your freaking head. And that article was clearly designed for that reason.
But I think
It's okay.
I think the people we need to be not critical of, but it's the readers that we need to be, educating or
to be able to discern the difference.
Yeah.
Well, it's like tabloid newspapers, right? I'll go to the checkout line with my fiance Caprice, and she'll be like, "Oh my God, Kim Kardashian's pregnant again," because it'll say it on Us Weekly or something stupid like that.
I believe that too.
And I'm like, Caprice,
Barack Obama's Caprice.
No, they need to sell that magazine. And she's like, she'll come in and she'll say, it's weird in a relationship. She's like, it's really weird having a fiance she initially when we started dating, boyfriend that knows more about entertainment than I do, and gossip than I do. But she's like, what's going on with this, and this? And I'm like, Caprice, none of that's true. How do you not see that?
But I get it too, because I don't understand why you're allowed to print those things. I actually don't get it.
I don't either.
What are the rules? There are no rules. Where are the rules?
Yeah, and there's people that write this stuff, and it's like, do you feel bad about writing an outright, straight up lie?
Yeah.
And I guess
you just get used to doing it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Ooh.
That's so dark. And so true though. No, that is so funny though. How are you allowed to do that?
Yeah, it's very, very true.
I think the answer is, some of the tabloids, I don't know about all of them, they just get sued all the time. But they can pay for that. For that expense. It's written in.
It goes back to the readers, right? The responsibility is on the readers. If that didn't sell,
that's what I meant to say. That's the word.
If that didn't sell, they wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Readers need to be more aware and go, I think this might be bullshit.
And the problem is the more readers are clicking on these inflammatory headlines, the more websites are coming up with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're feeding that, right? You want clicks, you want advertising. So it's kind of a, I don't know, double-headed monster?
And what I'm also seeing more and more now, no, it makes absolute sense.
Totally.
What I'm seeing more and more now is the advice I give any, aspiring writer is, well, just write. But what they do to start is they imitate what they see the most.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we seeing right now?
Now it's
an explosion.
Clickbait horse shit.
Yeah.
And,
Opinions from chairs and, yeah.
People keep sending me tweets like, oh, what do you think about this trade rumor? And they send me fuckface with the question mark for an avatar, and I'm like, it's all made up.
Yeah.
They're making it up. What are you talking about?
Somebody got physically, not physically, he got so mad at me on Twitter because I said that rumor is straight up not true.
Yeah.
Because it came from what we see now are aggregators, right? So they'll take what they'll do is they'll pull like a SoFlo Antonio is perfect for this in pop culture, who's an idiot. But what they'll do is they'll take you're the source, Kristina, but I'm the Facebook page or the Twitter page who reads your tweets. And you report the story, and you break the thing. Say the Leafs are looking at bringing Kessel back. Let's say that's the headline, okay? Then all I have to do is say reports are the Leafs are looking at bringing Kessel back. Mm-hmm. And I look like the guy that knows what I'm talking about, and I'm not. And I get sent the hockey writers news people or whatever it is all the time. And I get people who are very frustrated with me when I say it's straight up not true. Where's the source? And they don't list those sources, right? It goes back to where are those rules? And we have to be able to, as people who consume this, we have to educate ourselves a little bit on that. Where's it coming from? For sure.
And I think there are good aggregator type sites out there that actually put in the full quote and put links to the original source.
Well, yeah, that's called doing the news properly, right?
Yeah, that's called journalism of some sort.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yeah. So yeah, rules.
Rules. So where do you want to go? Where are you going to end up?
Oh.
What are we going to see from you in 20 years?
Oh my gosh, 20 years?
Yeah, what's your 5-year plan?
I hope to be on a dock somewhere.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not a bad plan.
I would love to not have to come to an office. That would be my dream would just be to be at large, as they say. In writing, I think
that should be the name of your website. Rutherford at large.
Yeah. But I don't know. What do you guys want to do?
Spoken like a true journalist, doesn't want to talk about herself.
I like your doc idea.
Yeah, I could do the doc thing.
Sweet.
If we could do this podcast from the doc and produce everything that we do,
honestly,
but from a doc,
why
I'd be fine with that. Actually, I've said this many times, I'd be happy in Tampa. I'd be really happy in Tampa. We'd do all the same stuff that we do, but I could be in Tampa.
Cheering for your second team.
I'd go see the Leafs and cheer for them when they came to town, but I would be able to afford season tickets there. It'd be great.
You know what? I'm not done asking you about people you've spoken to.
Okay.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have time?
Oh, yeah, I got time. Oh, these guys have a show to do.
Yeah, we do. We kind of have to. We do have to kind of scoot here
My
soon.
computer actually died before I got here, so I have time. My computer died.
Oh, no. Is it charged?
Yeah, it's charged. Okay. It just went. It died. Yeah.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. So we were supposed to have you on like a couple of weeks ago, and you had something blow up in that time. Not your computer. Your Happ story.
Oh my god.
Jay's pitcher J.A. Happ.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a free milk jug, which I have not gotten. You have gotten a free thing that I have not.
Because have I lost? I have no ethics. I allowed them to send me a gift in the mail, but it was a milk jug, and I couldn't say no.
I
and
feel
this
like that's
milk
okay.
bag holder.
How
that's
dare
really
you?
Cool.
How dare you talk about clickbait and then you accept milk jugs? Who do you think you are?
Right?
Walter Cronkite is so disappointed in you.
Good night and good luck to your career.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Can you retell the whole Happ story?
Yes.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Let's get to that.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks. We're back on track.
So about the baseball player.
Yeah. So I've been planning to talk to Jay Happ for some time. Just an interview. So I do this for the magazine too. At the back, there's a Q&A, and I always interview a different person, and it's really fun usually. And for some reason, I was fixated on Jay Happ because of this turnaround he's had, and I just wanted to find out what is happening. What is happening? Oh my God.
Tell me that's the title.
Terrible.
The Happening.
That just happened. Okay. So we were talking, and it was a pretty normal conversation, and it wasn't really, I wouldn't call it the most exciting chat I've had, but my fault. And then I asked him it's his second time in Toronto, so he's been in Canada. He's probably gotten used to how we do things here. If it's any different, sometimes it is. And asked him if there was anything he wasn't used to still, and he just went off on milk bags. And for 10 minutes, we talked about milk. And I mean, I didn't know that it wasn't really popular everywhere.
If you go outside of Ontario, you will not find a milk bag.
In Western Canada, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
Even
not there.
Nowhere else in the world.
Nowhere.
It's quite literally
So
the
I
dumbest
didn't know
way
that.
to do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think so. I think it's awesome. I love that you can get it in chocolate and vanilla, as I call it. But it actually...
You mean just milk?
Yeah. It actually just spurred this massive conversation, and he didn't know that you're supposed to put it in a jug. He was like, where are the jugs? Do I buy the jugs? How can I get the jugs? So that's why the dairy farmers of Ontario, lovely people, sent him a care package with a jug in it and one of those cutters that you put on your... He won't know how to use that. Put on your fridge, and this plastic thing that you put your 3 milk bags in, fridge saver, space saver.
Oh my God.
Because those exist. Yeah, but it I've never seen anything like that. Like nothing ever. Just
blow up
the scale of how much conversation there was. And I know it was a really slow day in sports, right? It was just after the All-Star game. There was actually
Nothing.
The British
no
Open.
rumors.
That was it.
No.
So if you're not a golf fan, you were discussing bagged milk. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
It is funny the weird things that people latch onto. I did an interview with this girl I went to school with named Gwen Elliott. And, we were just talking about YouTube and sports and all that stuff. It's a 17-minute YouTube video. And all the comments were about how I made her take off her shoes. Because we were walking around my house in my socks. or in our socks. And I'm like, I don't know, that's how we do it.
It's a house.
Yeah,
In
it's a
Canada.
house.
No, but apparently in the rest of the world, they just
you
have
keep your
muddy
shoes
carpets
on.
and
Yeah.
covered in garbage and grass and shit.
They wear high heels around the house and stuff.
That's ridiculous.
It
That's
is.
weird.
It's crazy.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
Here
We don't have
You
shoes
know
in the
why-
house and we have bagged
Yeah.
milk.
Do
damn
you
it.
want to know
Yeah.
why we take our shoes off? Because it rains and it snows here. And
it's
that's why.
polite. It's polite too. Are you going to
Yeah.
go to somebody's house and track? Who knows what you've been in that day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want your whatever it is on your shoe.
Yeah.
Would you lick the bottom of your shoe? No. That's why I don't want it on my floor. Thank you.
What a
That's why I'm
conversation.
licking his floor.
Yeah, I can
seen
eat
him
off
do
my
it. It's
floor
weird.
for that reason. Except for my bottom of my feet, which aren't probably much better. But
So anyway.
Anyway.
YouTube and sports and all that stuff. It's a 17-minute YouTube video. And all the comments were about how I made her take off her shoes. Because we were walking around my house in my socks. or in our socks. And I'm like, I don't know, that's how we do it.
It's a house.
Yeah,
In
it's a
Canada.
house.
No, but apparently in the rest of the world, they just
you
have
keep your
muddy
shoes
carpets
on.
and
Yeah.
covered in garbage and grass and shit.
They wear high heels around the house and stuff.
That's ridiculous.
It
That's
is.
weird.
It's crazy.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
Here,
tells
we
me-
don't have
You
shoes
know
in the
why-
house and we have bagged
Yeah.
milk.
do
damn
you
it.
want to know
Yeah.
why we take our shoes off? Because it rains and it snows here. And
it's
that's why.
polite. It's polite too. Are you going to
Yeah.
go to somebody's house and track? Who knows what you've been in that day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want your whatever it is on your shoe.
Yeah.
Would you lick the bottom of your shoe? No. That's why I don't want it on my floor. Thank you.
What a
That's why I'm
conversation.
licking his floor.
Yeah, I can
seen
eat
him
off
do
my
it. It's
floor
weird.
for that reason. Except for my bottom of my feet, which aren't probably much better. But
So anyway, one other player. Sorry, okay,
yeah, because
just one more,
we're
I
tight
promise.
here. We're tight.
One more, I promise. I believe you said you spoke to Jagr.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what's that reaction about?
Oh no, it was the best.
It was the best?
Yeah, I think that's my favorite interview ever.
Was that the audible history of Jaromir Jagr? Is that what the title
Oral
is?
history,
Oral.
yeah. So we spoke to
Audible.
probably 10 or 15 people that have known him throughout his life, past teammates, former, I don't know, everything, childhood friends, coaches. And I did this with Ryan Dixon and Garrett Joyce, who also work for the magazine. And I got to sit down with Jagr, and it was... Yeah, it was
What was it? What is it about him? Like there's a fascination with him. There always has been, but for a while there was a real negative kind of. I mean, in mid-career New York Rangers, Washington Capitals years, there was a real
didn't
negativity
wanna
that
talk
surrounded
about
him. No, I guess not. But
You watch, about 7 years from now, Ovechkin will be a god. we will all appreciate the fact that he's still here.
Yeah.
He'll have a Jagr-like lore about
It's
him.
the passing of time, I think. And it's the fact that his reputation has changed so much and he hasn't given any effort into changing it, I don't think.
He just goes to, well, what's fascinating,
He just
I think it's
does
this,
whatever he wants.
it's access, yes, and it's access to him, because you see, if like he's on Instagram or Snapchat and he's Snapchatting himself on an extra bike, you know, on a Saturday night at 1 a.m. after the game, right? Like people admire that, and I don't think we got to see that years ago.
Prior to social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before he spoke English really well and before he was comfortable in North America.
Let's be straight. There was a lot of xenophobia back in the day, a lot more than there is now. You know what I mean? He came from one of those commie countries, right?
Yeah.
Those commie
Yeah.
Yugoslavia countries.
yes.
So I think the reason that I enjoyed talking to him so much is that that's part of the reason. Like, his background is so interesting and he's been through so much.
Yeah.
Like, he's been in the NHL, he's left the NHL, he's come back to the NHL, he's 44, he leads his team in scoring. There's so much to him. And I asked him, I think all I asked him was, what was your childhood like? And he started talking about communism. And he said he could either be a hockey player or a singer. That's the only way he would have a better life for his family. And then he said he did 1,000 squats a day starting from the age of 7. And I was like, I have never spoken to a more interesting person. Boom, that's it. I mean,
wow.
Age 7, and that's why his bum is so big.
Any of those guys from the communist bloc is fascinating. The way that, I mean, the Fetisov documentary that they did, the Red Army documentary is incredible.
The Russian Five?
Russian Five, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all in it, and we don't want to spoil the article completely. But one thing I thought was funny about Jagr, which is a totally salacious and gossipy story, so excuse me on this one. This is not above board at all. But the rumor is there's a young woman that he met at a bar one night. And this young woman and him went home together because he's single and she's single, and that's what adults do. And it turns out that this young woman was a model in the Czech Republic. And this is apparently a true story. I'm sure you've heard it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I guess when they woke up the next morning, she takes a picture of herself and him, and he's sleeping. And then goes to him and says, I want you to pay me money to not release this. And he said, go ahead and release it. And so she did. Turns out she's dating the captain of the junior Czech national hockey team.
Who grew up with Jagr as an idol.
Yeah. Brutal.
He does whatever he wants.
What I have heard is it wasn't her pressing for ransom money. It was someone else who got a hold of it.
Okay, so then that's not fair to her.
We only had 20 minutes. We didn't talk about that.
No, I wouldn't imagine. But it's funny, just that attitude was like, go ahead. What's going to bring me down at this point?
Yeah, nothing.
He talked about, did he talk about why he wore 68?
No, we didn't talk about that.
I'd like to know why.
It has something to do with, oh my God, I'm going to get ripped apart for not knowing this exactly. Something about an invasion of, I want to say Prague or the Czech Republic by the Soviet Union.
Which wouldn't surprise you.
Something about tanks. Oh, God, I suck.
And the year.
He's got it, Jesse's got it.
Oh, my God,
Jagr wears the number 68, which he has worn through his entire career in honor of the Prague Spring that occurred in Czechoslovakia in 1968. And his grandfather, who died while in prison.
Oh, my God.
There we go. Thank you. I was drowning and you threw me a rubber duck.
If you go into the history of Czechoslovakia, especially, but that area, where you've got like the former Yugoslavia, you've got the Czechoslovakia, you've got all of these little countries that are right in the middle of the push and pull of Europe and the Soviet Union. It is unbelievable, the history that they had. And it's amazing that everybody that comes out of there, or that these people came out of there at all. Like, it's just such a... You can't imagine the difference in the lifestyle that we lived and they lived. And like you said, 7-year-old doing 1,000.
Yeah.
We would call that child abuse. Straight
Absolutely.
up.
I think his dad used to bike to the rink and he would run beside his dad, and it was like 12 kilometers away or something. Yeah.
I walked 12 kilometers the other day and I had to tweet about it. I was so proud of myself.
Was it to hatch an egg? Pokemon?
I hatched so many eggs.
Are you playing Pokemon Go, by the way?
No.
Why not?
You're wrong.
I've watched people play it, yeah. I don't know.
Kristina.
It's okay, I'll do it
One
for
day
you.
you'll
Give me
download
some
the app
time.
and then you'll be sucked in.
I just learned about OVO Fest.
Ovechkin Fest.
Ovechkin.
Yeah, I'm a little slow on the popular stuff.
So let's go right to the press conference here. We have questions.
Yeah, one you kind of already answered, but I think you should touch on again. Sarah wanted to know just any advice for aspiring women in media.
Oh, media in general.
In media in general.
Okay, I would say, the biggest piece of advice I like to give, which is funny because me giving advice, it seems kind of funny.
Does it?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem funny to us. It
I
must
don't
only seem
know.
funny to you.
I'm all over the place. Okay, I would say if you're doing an internship or you're looking for work, don't necessarily look at a big company or say it's newspapers you want to go to. Don't necessarily just look at the Toronto Star. Look at a smaller market, like a tiny newspaper in the middle of nowhere, because you might get massive opportunity there and get great clippings and sit down with the Prime Minister because the news guy is sick.
The Oakville Beaver.
This could happen to you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times their staff is 3 or 4 people. It's the summer. You're getting all the good stories. You're getting great clippings, amazing experience. And then you can go to somebody like a big paper like the Toronto Star with all that under your belt.
It's the best thing I ever did. As a broadcaster, best thing I ever did was
Yeah.
move.
To Halifax.
Yeah, Barrie and Halifax and Calgary. And
Barrie,
yeah.
oh my God, I forgot when
Barrie-
you drove to Barrie in the banana boat.
Yes, I had
Adam had a bright yellow Subaru Baja.
Wow.
People have no idea what that is when you tell
A
them.
Baja.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it's
go
a-
ahead
it's
and
a-
My
Google
parents
that.
have a Subaru.
Do they?
It-
Okay,
it
well,
doesn't have Baja at the end.
imagine that Subaru, but with a pickup bed. That's exactly what it was.
It was
they
named
just cut
after-
off the.
And in yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was named after the
I'll look it up.
reaction most people had when they
Did
saw
you
the
get a
vehicle.
deal? on it?
No, I wanted one. They came out when we were in grade 9, and I said I will own that car, and
Really?
that was the first car I bought. Yep, and it looked exactly like
Different
this.
from most kids. Oh, I like it, actually.
See, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. I got made fun of
I love
roundly
that.
for this car.
They
Was it that
used
color?
that to get
It
away
was
from
that color.
raptors in the first Jurassic Park.
Two-tone, too.
It was a great car. I had it for 4.5 years, and I barely spent any money.
Do they
Subarus
still
are great.
make these?
They do not. They made them for 4 years, and nobody bought them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on the
Sorry.
screen. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because it's funny when you move those to those smaller places, you have to. There is no choice. You got to do the big
Exactly.
things because there's just too many. There's too many stories and not enough people.
Yeah, and you learn so much. Like, you might learn how to design a newspaper because you have to, you know? That could be useful.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about newspapers a lot, but any industry, really, like any sector of journalism.
Roadkill 823 wants to know.
Great name.
What
Great name.
moment in sports were you most shocked or amazed?
Oh, what moment in sports? Okay. I can't remember what grade I was in, but big Blue Jays fan growing up. I got to stay up and watch Joe Carter. And I have a Joe Carter jersey. It was signed. I got it for my birthday. I wore it in like every school picture ever. Yeah, when he hit that grand slam, that was just
Back in
nothing.
1993, they bring the
Nothing.
World Series back to Toronto. That's his.
I'm old. Yeah. That was it.
I'm so glad to find out I wasn't the only kid who wore a jersey in every school picture.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, mine was a knockoff Gilmore jersey.
Mine was too. Mine was the Devils Gilmore jersey.
Oh!
Yeah, I was a Devils fan because of Doug Gilmore.
Yeah, it's
Like,
gotta
I was
be
a Leafs fan,
knockoff
but-
when you're a kid too.
Yeah.
Mine still fits me. Like I still have.
You need to break that out at some point.
Oh, I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
don't
And it's
worry.
autographed.
It's
I mean,
great.
Yes.
Yeah.
The old color, that was
I
great.
feel like the autograph's really fading, but
Final question. F scans very broad, but what is the ultimate goal in your career?
ooh, I don't.
Well, we know the doc
have
is.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. To retire. No, I love my job. If I could cover every Olympics ever, I would do that. That would
you
be a
going to
great
Rio?
goal. No. No.
Nobody wants to go
I've been to the last 3. But yeah, to me there's nothing better than covering the Olympics. So I guess I'll make it events based and say, yeah, doing that.
Can I ask you? Everything we're reading out of Rio is obviously terrible and has been for years. And I feel like the FIFA World Cup in Qatar might also be the same thing because of all the human rights abuses and the fact that they are now having to move it 6 months, so it's in the winter there, so it's not 55 degrees outside. And that's in Celsius for American listeners.
In Fahrenheit, don't even bother. It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah. So for you, looking at these games, if you were going to cover them, even covering them from here, which you can do, what do you think is going to be the thing that they talk about when they talk about this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Usain Bolt broke the record again.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be. Yeah. It's to be seen, but I don't know. I feel like the sewage could be a big problem, or suddenly the water's going to be miraculously clean. I don't know.
Well, they better do something.
When's the opening ceremony?
Friday.
Yeah.
Jesus. You know what?
It's such a
Sochi,
shame.
I was like, okay, the media showers are kind of yucky. That's not so nice. But you can get past it.
Yeah.
Like those were the stories going into it. Like, people will survive.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
With Rio, you got people going, you will get sick.
Yeah.
You will get sick if you swim in the water.
Well, and I don't
know how
understand-
they're going to get past this one.
I don't understand, and the political stuff behind it is just astounding. The fact that they had the World Cup and then this, which is both are insanely expensive events that you never pay off. Like Montreal just finished paying off the Olympics in the 70s.
We're in the middle of this random, I think, like 5 or 6 year stretch where Brazil and Russia just got everything. Yeah. Like the world just decided everything will either be in Russia or Brazil.
And they're broke. Government's broke.
Yeah.
The president's about to, or prime minister or whatever it is about to be impeached. Like, it's over. And that's the weird thing is that once this is done, that's why I kind of look, is Brazil going to fall apart? Like, they have no money. They have no money.
I don't know if there's a gonna. Like,
it might be
it's already falling apart.
And that's what I worry about. You know, there's going to be huge protests, and there's, you know, the Australians just had all their stuff stolen because there was a fire, and they evacuated the building, and then whoever went in to put out the fire took everything. Took all their laptops, took all their cell phones, took everything.
The main sailing platform just fell apart. They got to rebuild it all.
So anyway,
it's
her
going
favorite
well.
thing to do, her favorite thing is the Olympics.
And what is in your fridge?
It really is.
That's how that started. She's like, it's the best.
But I
We're
just
like,
wonder.
yeah.
That's why I asked, though. I wonder if this Olympics is going to be one
Is
of
it
those
gonna
Olympics
change
where it's
everything?
like, yeah.
Maybe.
Or
maybe-
they say that every single time.
That's the
and then by
thing,
the end
that's
of
Except for London, they didn't say that about London.
That's
They'll
why
let
I'm
them-
cautiously
very early.
optimistic, you know?
China, we heard the
because it
same
always somehow works out.
Right.
And I don't know.
My friend's practicum project was about how the Vancouver Olympics are going to leave the city and province, you know, completely bankrupt, and it's going to be a disaster. And
They're okay.
gold medal.
By the way, that was the
Exactly.
Jurassic Park theme song. I'm not really sure why you did that. but
Wait, what was it?
Oh, I should know this.
the Canadian Olympic music?
It played every 2 seconds.
Oh, man, that's bad. My memory.
He did Jurassic Park. What a dick.
You know what?
What
That
a
music,
dick.
listen, I don't blame
It's 'cause
you.
of
The
your
music's
car.
majestic.
It
It's
is.
majestic.
Can use that on anything.
Well, Kristina, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I hope it's been a fun experience. I
It
hope-
was fun. I was scared, but it's been fun.
Are we intimidating? I mean, I know we're kind of muscly and scary guys, right? Steve and I with
Taller
our
than I
bellies.
Just
thought
the
you'd
muscly
be.
part.
And
Yeah.
the scary part.
You guys are taller in person than I thought you'd be.
All right, just a full disclosure, we were talking about off camera about what we get told, and you said, Kristina, you're disarming a lot, and I was saying that people either say that I'm better looking in person or that they thought I was taller, and I thought, you know, people take offense to that, but I always think, well, at least they care enough to think of it at all,
They're thinking about you.
right?
It's nice.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have one final question. Are you going to do more of this sort of thing? Are you going to do more like podcasts, radio, any TV,
I don't know.
YouTube? I really think you should.
Okay.
Because you're the best, Kristina.
Listen,
I know you're shy.
Steve's
you're the
doing
best.
this in front of thousands of people
Yeah,
because he wants to
thanks,
strong arm you into it.
That's nice
You will
of
have
you.
fun.
That's nice of you. Yeah, I'm open to. I have always said if I have to do things that aren't writing and it gives me an opportunity to talk to somebody or do an interview or travel somewhere, I would never say no. You know?
Amazing. The world is her oyster.
But don't expect me to brush my hair or anything, you know?
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
Who cares about that?
See?
Overrated.
I know.
Overrated. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. What is your Twitter handle, just so everybody can follow you?
It's at Rutherford with 2 R's.
Rutherford.
So K.R. Rutherford.
Rutherford. That's how you pronounce it. Rutherford.
Rutherford. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
K.R. Rutherford.
And you're going to be. Can we ask what your stories are going to be in the next month and a half? Like, what do you expect to be covering?
Oh, good question. Olympics for the next bit, and then probably some golf. The LPGA Tour's coming to Cambridge next month, and then World Cup of Hockey and Blue Jays. Sprinkle in some Blue Jays.
Blue Jays. So we're going to expect
And some holiday. I'm
So to
gonna
be like,
sprinkle in a holiday
okay.
too.
Are you going to be reporting on that too, or
No.
Okay. So to be like Zika, LPGA,
Sewage,
Blue
sewage,
Jays.
sewage.
All right, cool. That's good. And World Cup too.
I
Hockey?
don't know. Good question. Oh, yeah, World Cup hockey. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was just thinking this for soccer. Oh, did I not know that?
It'll be interesting to see if Sportsnet can cram it into everyone's head that, World Cup also means hockey.
Can we also
Yeah.
quickly mention, since we were talking about it before, and there was a passionate response from the gallery when Jesse brought it up.
Yeah.
What do we have? What was just released about the World Cup schedule
So
today?
Myrtle tweeted out the exhibition schedule for the World Cup of Hockey. Which
And
includes
what Toronto arenas will those games be held?
none of them.
So we're hosting. so let's say Montreal and Toronto are hosting the World Cup,
Yes.
or is it
it's
just
Montreal?
Toronto?
No,
I thought it was
Montreal and
split.
Toronto are hosting the World Juniors.
Oh,
Just
Montreal gets the
Toronto.
medal round.
So it's just
Toronto.
Toronto. So we're hosting the World Cup. So it would make sense, like in a World Cup fashion, that all the exhibition games are in Toronto.
No, they're going on a Globetrotter like tour.
so like the GTA, like
That's how
they'll
you
play some
spread the
games.
news.
Yeah.
No,
In Oshawa, Mississauga.
The Globe. They're going to.
Oh, the Globe and Mail office.
No. They're going to
Never heard of them.
Helsinki, St. Petersburg, Quebec City, Columbus, Ohio, Prague, Sweden, Ottawa.
All right. And these are NHL players that have a full season to play and a full World Cup to play. How many games?
They love travel.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I'm sure.
In the off-season.
Between all the teams, there's 12 exhibition games. So I think each team plays twice. So there's 6 of them.
So let me go ahead and
It's going to be exciting, though.
oh, it's going to be very exciting. For fans, I think it'll be a delight to watch.
What were
I
you
really
going to do?
You've talked to him for an hour. Do you think Phil Kessel's actually stoked that he's not going to be part of this? I think he might be pretty jacked about it.
I think he's all right with it.
Yeah.
I think he's made peace with it.
Don't be surprised if he tears it up in the first 2 months of the season.
I just want to point out Team Russia for their exhibition schedule. On September 8th, they'll be in St. Petersburg, Russia, playing the Czech Republic. Then they go to, I just had here, September 10th, they'll go to the Czech Republic to play Czech Republic in the Czech
Which
Republic.
is kind of a
That makes
flight.
sense.
That's a big
It's
of a
kind
flight.
of a flight, but KHL players have to deal with that.
But then, hey, why not on September 14th throw them in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
Get out!
So let's do 3 international flights and have a lot of fun, guys, for practice.
This is going to be
For
fun.
practice.
I'm really
This is
excited.
the aeroplane points I'll get.
Oh my God, true.
Right?
See, always looking at the
They
positive.
need those, yeah.
These games mean a lot to them.
So it is Rutherford on Twitter.
I'm not going to try. I'm
Rutherford.
embarrassed.
Kristina, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that you'll come back. I hope we haven't
Thank
freaked you out, or
I had fun. Thanks for having me.
she has to say that because
Yeah, it's
we're
true.
live. She'll yell at us.
Don't make
afterwards.
me talk anymore.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next week before Steve goes to Scotland.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, do we have one more before I go to Scotland?
Yes. Your wife actually told me we would do. She's like, you have time, and I was like,
All
great,
right.
amazing.
I thought this was the last one.
It is not, but we will cover the rest of the stuff that we've missed there, including an incredible Liberty Village story that we do not have time for today, but we will have.
You described it as the Stanley Cup.
This Liberty Village thing that we have for your next podcast is the Stanley Cup of Liberty Village shit to happen. That's
man.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Kristina, thank you so much for coming on, and we will be back next Tuesday.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.